Hello guys, and welcome to day 16 of this full stack hospital management system. So this has been a long project, and now we are going toward integration, and we'll see everything coming together. So as you can see here in this folder here, you can see we have front end. We build front end before we move to our backend, and then we move to our background services here. So our project is already here and it is running. This is the project that in our front end, which we want to start integrating with our backend so that we can get data from our backend and we can interact with our backend and our background services. So as you can see here now, this is a project that we built. Now I want us to start integrating, but we'll start with the side of admin. So if you go to this route here for the admin, it will load the module for the admin. If you have been here since the start of project, you know we created modules for admin, patient, reception, and etc. So now I want to illustrate you now where we are. Let me create a simple diagram. So here we have our front end here, and then we have our backend here, and also we have our background services here. So this is our background services. So we have this one here, and this is for those people who have not gone through the other video. So this is our front end, and here you need to have this one here is backend, as you can see here, and also here we have the background services. As per now, as you can see here, the only thing that we have done here is that we have this database here. So we have our database here that is running SQL server, and the only thing that we have done is connection. We have done connection from our backend to our database, and also from our background services here to our database here. So now we want to start now integrating our front end here, this front end here, and now to start interacting with it. And our front end and our back end, now we need to start integrating so that we can fetch data between our back end and our front end, that is, so that our system will look like this. We have front end that will be saving data to our database using our backend or API, and also we can fetch data from our database using our API to our front end, and also our background services will be interacting with our database in order to generate something like report and send emails. So without much ado, if you haven't subscribed to this YouTube channel, kindly subscribe and then hit the bell icon. And also, if you know someone who can benefit from this video, you can share to them. So without much ado, let's dive into our tutorial. So if you are familiar with something like Angular, you know Angular has something like use effect to fetch data from our database, but Angular or from the backend. But for Angular, it's a little bit different, and Angular uses something that is called services, and services are like the main objective of a service in Angular is to organize and share business logic, models of data, and functions with different components of an Angular application. They are usually implemented through dependency injection. As you know, guys, I think you can go through the documentation to learn more about services. So in order to use the services to fetch the data, one of the things that you need HTTP client module that will need to be imported. So the first thing first, we just come here. I had already opened this code, VS Code here. So let us come here, and in our app.module.ts, let me look for it here. Here we need to import HTTP client. So in here, in our module, first thing that we need to do is to create this HTTP client, or it's to import this HTTP client module. As you can see here, I don't know why it is not giving me the auto completion. Let's see. Let me start again. HTTP client module here. So let me see. So let me see here. So let me import. Let me try to import it from Angular here. So at Angular, and then common, this one here, and then HTTP. You can see it should come from this folder here. So in here now, we can try to get HTTP client module. You can see it here. So we can import it that way. So because I wanted to have auto completion, but it didn't give us auto completion. So after you have imported this HTTP client module, now the other thing that you need is to create a service file. So to create service file, for my case here, I will need to have services for every module here. I will have a service for doctor, admin, finance, patient, and reception. So first thing first, let me come here in my terminal here, and guys, you can see how many terminals I have here, because I'm running for one for the database. I'm still watching for it for code compilation and changes. And you can see here I also have a background services, and which have another terminal which does the compilation when there is the code changes. So here now I'll just now generate a service. So ng generate service, and then I will create them in a service file folder here. And now the first thing that I will need is for the admin. So let us generate service for admin that I will call admin, that it will be inside this service folder here. So after now creating these files here, now the other thing that you need to do is to create an instance of HTTP client and fetch data. And again, another step that we'll go through is create a data interface to cast the observables, and then subscribe the data from the service in component. We just inject the service to our component so that we can use it. But in our case, I won't subscribe in our component. We use something that is called a sync pipe, because I want it to subscribe and unsubscribe automatically. So we'll be using a sync pipe, and you can check on that, because that's one of the best practices in Angular, to use a sync pipe where necessary, and we will be using a sync pipe, and I will show you how to use a sync pipe. So if you look here, you see we have the folder here for the services, and you can look at it and you can see it has this injectable, because we will be able to inject it to other components and use it to fetch data. So in here, so let me now generate for the others. So the other that we need is for the doctor here. So let me generate one for the doctor here. So it should generate one for the doctor here, and it is taking a lot of time, I think. So the other one is for the reception, just like that. And then we need to have another one or the last one for the patient, and then we just now need to fetch the data using now our services that we are creating right now. So here, let me create this for patient here, that one there, and again let me okay, now it has completed. So now to create these services, we now need to start creating the services for us, and we need to bind the interfaces. So, but let us start with the admin. For the admin, or I'll just create another one. And I think we don't need this one for the admin, but let me just leave it there. And then we'll have for the auth, and this one is which we will start with this one for the auth, because this one will help us to log in, or it will help us to register users and then also to sign in our application by user. So I'll start with this one for the auth, or for the authentication. You can see it here. So open it. Now the first thing that you need is you need to import now HTTP client, and let's see. So in here, so what we'll do, we just import HTTP client, just like that. So, and you can see it is coming from Angular /common/HTTP, because this is one of the best features that Angular has. You don't need to start using something like Axios to fetch the data. Remember, in Angular, in libraries like React, you need to use Axios inside the use effect hook, and then you just have your data from the backend. So now we need now to start creating these, I say the functions, because this is a class called auth service. So the first thing that we need to do, first of all, let me initialize the HTTP client here in order to use it in our class. So in here, I just initialize it and give it HTTP client just like that. So the first thing that we need to do is to get the doctors as our method. So remember here, these functions are the ones that we'll be calling when we inject this service to a component. So we need to have a function for the doctors. So what we need here now, we need to have this function. Let me first of all just give it like that. But now inside here, now we need to return this dot HTTP here, and then get, and then inside here now we need to give the type of the data that we'll be returning. So for now I'll just give any, and then I'll just add now the URL to our URL to our backend or our API. Had already copied it, so I'll just paste it here. You can see it here. So this one will get all APIs, and then it will get all doctors in users. And if you remember, we had that stop procedures that was getting only the doctors, and we had in our backend we had that URL. It is /API/users/get doctors, just like that. So now here we need to return, but for now I need to just indicate here what I need to return also, because we are using TypeScript in Angular. So here I just add observable from add.xjs, and now in here I just need to indicate the type of the data that we'll be getting, and this one will be the same with here. For now I'm creating any, but now this is the time now to start creating interfaces, because I want us to just start strong typing, because I don't want to use any everywhere, because it will help us to type safely, or to strong type our code, which is the main aim of TypeScript. So now, first of all, let me close here, and inside here, I want us to create an interface. Let me add these interfaces here, and now inside here, first of all, now we create the interfaces. I wanted to start with these services here, so that you get the meaning or the importance of using services, or importance of using why we need to have interfaces. So that's why I started here to show you where interfaces will be important. So now, first of all, let us create interfaces. And interfaces, we will have interfaces for every module or everything that we get from our database. So the first thing first, let me create a file here. And the first one that we'll be needing is for the user. We'll call it user.ts, and inside here we need to have different interfaces, because here we need to have an interfaces for registering, for logging data, that is, and for the data that we'll be getting after logging. So in here, let me start by creating an interface, and I'm hoping that you know how the interfaces are being coded or are being built. So we'll have register user here, and we just add it like that. Then in here, we'll have an ID, which will give it as optional, and this is a number. Let me create another here. A property is a string. This is an email. Remember, these are the data typing the type, or it is strong typing the data for registering the user, because this user here we need to strong type it. So this is the data that will be available when we want it to be available when we are saving the data for the user to our database. So this is will be a string also, and in here we need to have a role, and this role here also is a string, and also we need to have a name here, and this one is a string, and also we have a send, of which this will be optional, because when we are registering we won't need it. It will be saved by default. So now here we have this interface here, and this is how interfaces are being built. For now, the other one I'll just copy because it is the same thing. So this interface here will be using, this one here we'll be using when we want to save the data to our database, and also we'll be using it in our services for the auth when we are registering. So now this one here, interface for login user, this is the data that we require when the user is being registered, or is being registered, or is our user is logging to our system. So that's why we are adding it here. And the last one is the data that will be needing in order to log in, or when the user is logging, the data that will come from our database. And we need this data will come in this form. We'll have a user here, and this user will have email, role, and name. And again, now the other thing that will come separate is token, and this is because this is how we structured our data. After somebody login, they will return this information in this form. That's why we have added like this. We'll have an object of user that will have email, role, and name, and also we'll have token and a message. So that's why we have typed it just like this, and this is an interface. So if you are not understanding, just go to our backend. To your backend, you see this is the how the information will come from our backend. It will be when the user is logging in, they will be returned. If the login is successful, they will be returned this kind of information or the data. And actually, we can call this login data here, but I'll just leave it like that. So now we can now go back and start and go back to our services. So inside here now, what we can do, now we can strong type our services here. We can type our service, and to type it, now we can give it here what we'll have in our, or what we'll have when we are getting the doctors with the data that will be returned to us. So I want guys to understand here something. This is the data when we have this HTTP GET. and get all the doctors, which kind of data that we'll have. So in this case here, I'll just type it now. But if you have guessed correctly, what we'll need to have here, we'll have the login, or we'll have the register data. Here, we'll have the register data or register user interface. We'll be using register user data here, and it will be in form of this array because it's array. So another thing is we strong type here also register user data. So this is how you do. You just add the method in your services, and then now you can create these functions, and these methods are the one that we'll be calling in our component after we have injected our services in here. I'll just show you this whole process. So if you're not getting, just don't worry. So now we'll have another one here that we call register user as our method, another method in our services. And in here now, what we need to do, we need to have a data here, or the user, because we need to have user so that we can register that user. So remember, because it is TypeScript, we need to indicate the type of the data that we'll be sending or we'll be registering in our database or be saving in our database. So inside here now, we need to return the HTTP, because this .http, and remember this is the post because it is a post method because we need to save the data in our database. So this one is post, and actually can have this here. So our URL here, remember, just copy and paste it because we need to be a little bit fast. We need to be faster, and now we need to remove this here. So you can see here in our post we need to have the data, and this data is the one that we are having here, this one here. And remember, when we are registering, we need to it will return the message, and that's why we can add it here. Here we can add a generic in order to indicate the type of data that we will be getting from our database. So we'll have a message that will be telling us if it is successful or not. And now inside here also we'll have the same. We need to indicate that we need to return an observable that will have a string that will contain a message or a string of message. So inside here we will indicate this is a message and it is a string. So now the other thing that we need is to get all the users, because that one is one of the methods that we need. So users, and then inside here, this is a method, remember, and as usual we return. And if you guess it right, this is a method for HTTP that will be get here. So get, and then inside here I'll just copy and paste I'll just copy the URL and paste it here, and let me paste it here just like that. And then I forgot to add this here. So this one will get all users, this one here, and I want to indicate, because I want to strong type it, I need to show or to just give the data that we'll be having or the data that we'll get from database when we when we request this URL, or we request this data from our backend, that is. So we'll have observable of, and this observable here will need to have register. We need to use the interface here for register user, and it will be an array because it will be an array of users. Okay, now here we need also to indicate that. So here we just give it register user, and this is an array that is. So you can see how easy it is, because when now we call this here, we just say like this dot out service and then dot get users, and it will just do everything. It will just do everything for us. So I forgot here this one. I forgot this here, that one. So now the other thing that we need here is a function for deleting the user. So here we need to have delete user. Actually mistyping it. So this one here, and this one is a method also. So now here we need to return this dot http, here, and again we need to just give it a post. It is a post method, so we just give it a login here, because this one is an interface, and because we need the data to be in terms of this data here. Just wrong typing it. So in here, actually I don't know why this is giving me this error, and actually I think because this one I did some mistake there. So inside here, this one should be a post, a delete method, that is. Actually I'm just confused a little bit. So this one should be delete, and let me repeat this one here, because to save I didn't give it the right method, or the right, I didn't follow the the procedure. So now the other thing that I will do, I just copy the URL, and I'm using this backtick here because I just need to add this ID, and this ID will pass it in our method here. This one should be a number, because we need that ID in order to know which user to delete. So, and again, we need to indicate the type of the data that will be coming from our database. So this type of will be observable. Remember, we are using observable in Angular. So in here, we'll have a login data. Here, you can see, let me add the login here. Login. So, and you can give it that one here. So in here, we can indicate. So using generic, we can indicate it here. So when we are deleting here, we need to have a message. Actually, I forgot. We need to have a message. I don't know why I'm confused a little bit. So this one should be a string, because when we are deleting, we only need to see if it is successful or something went wrong, something of the sort. Yeah, just like that. So the last one is for signing in or login. I just call it signing in. And in here now, what we'll do, first of all, we need data, because we need to have the, I call it the data, the login, that is email and password. So that one was, we'll use an interface, give a type of interface that is login user, and also here we need to have an observable. Right now you know what we are doing. So observable, let me add observable, here, and it is this one. And also inside here, what we'll be getting now, we'll be getting the login data. Login data will be having an interface of login, just like that. And then because we have not returned anything, that's why you are seeing this error. So return this .http there, and then this one is post, because signing in also is a post, because we'll be sending our data. And inside here, This one will be login. We'll be using login interface here, and also we can give now our URL. Our URL here for the our API will be this one. Let me copy and paste it. So copy this one here, and let me remove that. Let me remove this one. Let me cut it, and then let me cut it just like that, and then add it here. And you can see we have also error because we have, if it is a post method, it required data. So you need to add a comma here and now indicate the login data that will be sending. You can see this login is the one that we are using here. So let me first of all complete with the services so that we start to go into a component and then giving it and start now incorporating it with the corresponding the component with our services. So now the other one that we need to do is for the patient, because we need to do something on the or with our patient data. So inside here we create everything. So for the methods that we'll be using in our patient data, so first of all, let me come here and I will just create this. Okay, let me import the HTTP client because it's the one that we are using to handle the request. So HTTP client, and you must make sure it is coming from common/HTTP. And now let me first of all create an interface, because remember we need to just strong type it. Let us strong type our we need to strong type our code. So let me add here patient.ts here. So you already know what information you require here, and this information is the one that we'll be saving in our database. So in our interface here, we need to have patient data. So I'll just copy and paste it because remember, we want to save time, and for now you know what interface it and how to use the interface. So in here, let me paste this here so you can see what the data looks like. So this one we'll be using it to strong type in our service and in our patient service now. So now we can go back to our patient service here. You can see it here. And now we can start creating the methods that we need. So in our patient, first thing first, we need to add our patient. So in our patient now, we require to add a patient, and this will be done by reception, because when the patient is being registered, or when the user is being registered is being admitted, that is, let me use that correct answer. So that correct one. So let me add here, or give this HTTP to just initialize it, HTTP client. You can see here HTTP client, just like that. So now inside here, or in our class here, we need to have add patient here, and add patient, we need to have it as a method, and this method here will return this one. We return several things. So actually not return some data, it will just post. Let me do HTTP and then post. So inside here now we'll include our URL so that we can register this patient or admit this patient. So inside here, we need to have now the data that we'll be needing in order to save this, or to save this user. or to save or to admit this patient. So you can see here, because it is a post method, we need to have our data here. We need to add here the data. So let me add here the data that we'll be requiring. And remember, we need to show the what will be returned. So inside here, when we are registering or admitting the user, we need to have a message that will be telling us if it is successful. So it is a string. So, and inside here, we also need to indicate that. So we need to indicate this is observable, and observable will return us a string called message, that is. So this is a string called message. And now what we need to do is now to add the data that we'll be adding, or that we'll be passing in order to register this or to admit this patient. So we need to have name, which is a string. We need to have resident area. This one will be filled out by the patient, by the reception, that is. I'm sorry for that. So we need to have room admitted. So I'm using this way so that you understand. I don't want to combine the data. I'll just do it like this so that you understand. So this is also a string, room admitted, and the admission number. So we'll have this one as a string. And also here we need to have an ID number. This one will be a number. And we'll have email here, which is a string, that is just like that. So now we can see here. Let me first of all add it here. So this as an object, that is. So the first thing that we do is we'll pass in name, resident area. I know this the long form of doing things, but I just wanted to do like this because I want everyone to understand. So admission number, just like that, and then we have an ID number, and also we need to have an email. We pass an email here. So let me first of all format the code. So format, so it is okay. So now the other thing that we need to get is to get all patients. These are the functions that we need in our service for patient. So get all patients. This is too easy. So this one here, we'll add an observable here as our return type, observable. And here now we can use the interface, because when we are getting the data from our database, we want it to get it in specific, or we need to strong type it. So we will get it in terms of patient data. So let me return now this .htp. This is a get method. So get, and we'll be using a generic here to indicate the type of the data that we'll be getting when we just fetch the patient from our database. So here I'll just add now the URL. So I'll just copy the URL as usual. So in later video I can show you how to add the environment variable, because this one you can't do this way in production, because you need to hide your API, because you don't want everybody to know how your API look like, so that for security purposes. So I'll just save that, and again now we require to have another for diagnosis, services for diagnosis and appointment. So I think I forgot to add those, but I can just come here and add services for diagnosis or treatment. you can call it treatment, because these are the will be added, the treatment will be added by the doctor. The doctor will select a patient, and then that patient will be, the treatment will be added to them. So the other thing that I will add here is appointment, and this appointment will be created by our patient. So I'll just create a service for appointment. Right now, let us look for diagnosis. So for now, you know what we need to import here. We need to import HTTP client, just like that. So inside here now, in our diagnosis, we need to have functions. The functions like, let's say, um, let's add the get diagnosis for user, because when the patient has logged into a system, we need to fetch the diagnosis, the treatment that they have received on their stay in the hospital, so that they can track their medication and treatment. So now I just first of all add here HTTP. So HTTP here, and this one will be having a type of HTTP client, just like that. And now we need to now add the method. So the first method will be for get diagnosis for user, just like that. And this is a method, and this method here we need to add, or we need to pass email, because we'll be using this email in order to get we need to use this email in order to fetch the data for this, or the treatment for this patient, because in our diagnosis we'll have that patient, or we'll have a column for emails, and now we can use this email to fetch the patient or the treatment that has that email or something like that. So inside here, what we need to do, we just return now, we return, and now we need to add this .http here, and .post, and now here is where we need now to create a diagnosis interface, because we need to get now the treatment. So in here I'll just add the URL and the email that we need to have, or the data that we need to post. So we just post it just like that. And in here, because we haven't added the interface, or we haven't created interface for treatment, what we'll do, we just add observable just like that, and then we give it a data of any. So this is telling it we need to require any data, but I will create an interface and then I will change. So now I need to get another function or a method, and this one will be for adding treatment. So inside here, what we need to do, we'll add treatment just like that, and our treatment here will be having for the name, will be, actually let me add it the right way. So we need to add this here. So I need to have the name treatment just like that, and this one will be string. This is the type of treatment that have been done, and this, because this one will be added by the doctor. Drug administered, how is this name? Okay, yeah, a drug administered, which is a string. Actually this one here, doctor name, because they will indicate the name of the doctor here, string. And also we'll be adding patient name, patient underscore name, and this one will be the string. Another thing is that we need to have this one here will be patient email. Actually it's not patient name, So patient email, and again we need to have a bill, the bill that the doctor will add. So we need to have a bill here, and also we'll be having date. This date here will be a string, and actually this is the date for treatment. And description, need to have a description here, and this is a description for treatment or diagnosis. And we'll have patient status, patient, let me add it and then remove this one, status, and this one is a string also. This is the data that will be added in our treatment or in our diagnosis, and will be added by the doctor. The doctor will select the patient and add the treatment to them. And remember, when you are selecting the patient and then adding the treatment, our background services will send an email to this patient telling them that, hey, we have done this treatment on you, and they can be able to track that using their email and also in their application. Remember, if there's somebody who is taking care of that patient, the email of they can add the email for that person, so that that treatment can be, or that email can go direct to the person who is caring for that patient if the patient can't be able to track their treatment. So now we need to return the type, and here I need first of all to indicate the type of data that we'll get. So remember, this one will be post, and here I let me add observable. Okay, this one here. And when we are saving the data in our database, we have a message as a return type. So it will be a message, and here I'm getting the error because I have not returned this one, this dot post, because we are adding the treatment. And here we need to add the URL now, and I will indicate also the type. So here inside here we need to have the URL to our API, so for the adding the treatment. So now we need to indicate here, first of all we need to indicate here is an object that have a message, and that message is a string. So it will be telling us like, hey, the treatment has been added successfully. So inside here now we need to give the data. So actually here I did a mistake. It's not this dot post, and this is .http.post, just like that. And now inside here now we can add now the name, treatment, just like how they follow each other, drug administered, just like that, doctor name, just like that. Need to have patient email, just like that, a bill, okay, just like that. Let me add it here. Okay, and then we need to have date, and we need to have description, this one here. We need to have patient status, just like that. So that are the data that we'll be saving in our database, that is, and the one that will be required in order to add in our database. So right now those are the only functions that we will be using, or the method that we'll be using in our diagnosis. And I have minimized. You can add any other that you feel it will be needed. You can scale this project or add functionality to this project however you want. So now, before I forget, we need to type this here, this observable here, or this data that will be coming from our treatment from our database when we are looking for the treatment for certain patient using their email. So remember, we need to add that as interface. So in here, I'll just add diagnosis.ts, and in my case here, I'll just copy and paste because I don't want us to type everything, and you can already the data that will be getting, or the data that we require in our diagnosis. So I'll just copy and paste the interface, and because we already know which data we need. First of all, we need to have the patient email, something of the sort. We need to have everything, like let's say something like we need to have the doctor name, and we need to have the description, everything that we have added in our services, in our diagnosis services, we require that. So I just copy everything and then paste, and because this one will be coming from our database, we'll have all this data here. You can see the data. So inside our service here, what we can do here now, we can now from type, we get a diagnosis here from our interface, and it will be an array. The same case with here. This one will be diagnosis, and it is an array. So let me format the code to remove extra spaces. So now the other one that we need to add is now for the appointment here. And actually this one, I think I will have only one function, and this function is for adding the appointment, that is. So in our services for the appointment, what we can do, we need to have that function, and we'll be having only one function, that is to add appointment. Remember, when we are adding the appointment in our database, we'll be receiving an email. The doctor should receive an email that there is an appointment that they have that has been sent, that have been added in, or there's a patient who have booked appointment with them. It will include even the name, the patient email, and everything. So let me import here the HTTP client as usual, HTTP client. And the other thing that need now to add is our private, is to add this HTTP here, and it has the type of HTTP client. So now here we have a function or a method that we call add appointment, just like that, just to make it simple. So add appointment, and inside here now, first thing first that we require here, we need to have the data that we'll be saving. And first of all, the first thing that we need to have is patient name, because this is the data that we need to save in our database. This one will be a string, and we need to have, let me first of all even make them vertically because I want to show you everything. So we need now to have doctor email, and this one also is a string. We need to have another string that is a date for that appointment. So we can add it there, and we need to have patient email, and that one is a string also. We need to have I think that's all that we need actually. I don't think we need any, no, we need to have anything else. So in here, remember what we are getting is an observable of a string, because we need to get a message telling us if that appointment has been added successfully. So that is a string, and we are getting the data because we haven't returned here anything. So this will add HTTP and post. Yeah, so we need to add the URL to add the appointment, or an URL in our API to add the patient, to add the appointment, that is. So in here, we'll add that there. And remember, because it is uh, it is it is a post method, it will require data. So now, actually here also, I need to indicate the data here. So we need to indicate the message here. So we need to have message, and this one is a string also here. So just like that, you can see the error has gone, and now we need to add the data that we'll be sending in our database here. So actually, let me make it horizontal, just like that. Let me scroll up a little bit so that we have space to work in. So in here now, I need to add is patient name, doctor name. Can see how they follow each other. So the doctor email, that is, and need to have date, and then the last thing is patient email, just like that. So we need to have this here. So, and again, I will also add interface, although we are not using it here in our service, and actually I can just forget about it, because I don't see if we'll be using now, we create a service, because there's no need to create an interface that we'll not be using. So we have added the services. Now what we'll do in our next video is just now to start now adding or injecting these services to component, and then getting the data and also adding the data to our database. So with I want to add or to complete my tutorial here, or to end my tutorial here, because I don't want it to be a long tutorial. So if you haven't subscribed, remember to subscribe. If you haven't liked this video, kindly like, and if you have learned something in this video, comment down there and let me know what your suggestion, if you're understanding and everything. So without much ado, let's see each other in the next video, or day 17. We are completing this project now. After integration, the project will be complete. So have a great day. Let me see you in the next tutorial.